Portland Parks property. And this was, if you open up your booklet to page 3, this is what this area looked like before. So you can see it was just a bunch of non-native grass and a little ditch of a stream running down the middle. The wetland, they basically re-dug out the wetland. You can see page 4, turn the sheet over. They dug out the banks of the stream to make a more like open wetland area, and put in a couple of different rock blocks for it to be like a swale for it to filter through. So before, when it rained, this area, it had no vegetation in it. It would just run down the channel and then run under a pipe through this area, which was some old apartment, like Elks Club, something like that.
It was an Elks Club.
So it ran under a pipe through here, kept running under a pipe all the way to under 30th, and just went straight eventually into Tryon Creek down there. So now when it rains, this area, there's a couple different wetland swales through here. We would walk on here, but it's not. It's like a wildlife preserve area. So now the water really slows down through here. And then, as we're going to see through here, they daylighted the creek through the middle of the apartments. And so the water's going to really slows down through there too. And then there's still a pipe under 30th, but then it goes through a big rain garden, a swale. And then they've daylighted the other main stem of Tryon on the other side of 30th. So now the water, when it rains, instead of all flushing through the system, it's a very slow process. So the three major problems with Tryon Creek that they've identified are stormwater, too much flow in the wintertime during storms because there's all these impervious surfaces, so it just flushes through the system, washes out all the gravel, takes with the pollutants. Then also, since there's it's not filtering in the ground during the summer, there's not much water recharge, so the creek gets really low and warm in the summer. So that's one main problem. The second main problem is increased temperatures because of devegetation, basically losing a lot of blackberry along the stream, lack of big conifers around the stream. And then the third is lack of habitat complexity, which is logs in the stream, riffles and pools for the fish to hang out in. So you're going to see those are the three main problems that have been identified that we're all trying to work on to fix. So the main one here is the stormwater. We're in the upper watershed. So the stormwater is the biggest issue for this upper watershed. So we're the city and all the other partners involved are trying to do as much here to slow the water down, to filter it into the ground, so that by the time it gets to Tryon Creek State Park, it's like it is in its natural state, and it's not going to be down cutting the stream anymore, and it's healthier for fish. So most watersheds, it's really bad at the bottom and really good at the top. Here it's the opposite. It's really urbanized up top, but then the bottom it's perfect. So we have to work a lot up here.
What would be the fish cycle up here?
The fish don't make it past about Boone's Ferry crossing right now.
What kind? Not trout?
There's lots of trout. There's juvenile steelhead, juvenile coho that they find now.
Are these spawning grounds for certain?
They're not.
Subsets?
They haven't found adult fish yet because there's a culvert that will go down at the bottom.
But traditionally, these everything is a spawning ground.
Right.
If you originally,
yeah,
high enough.
Yeah.
They used to be. Yeah, there used to be tons.
So yeah, everything we're doing up here is to make sure that when it gets down to Marshall Park and when it gets down to State Park, it's in better shape. So this is the stormwater part of it. So now we'll walk where they daylighted the creek just down. So if you look at now, let's see, page 6, if you guys are out. This is basically what this place used to look like. It was just a parking lot with a few buildings on it.
How long ago?
Oh my God.
This was 2004.
Oh, there's nothing for. There's no floral. What's going on?
So yeah, I was gonna talk about
rainy season.
Yeah. So the biggest part here is what you don't see actually. So underneath this, there's about 5 feet down. There's a lens where the water is allowed to filter for groundwater recharge. So it's really good that you don't see water here because that means that all this water is actually flowing below the surface and getting down into the groundwater system. And that's what they're trying to do here. So before, when it was just cement, you guys see what happens. You can see on a rainy day, cement just pools off. Here it actually filters. It comes to the creek there.
along the top?
There's more potential for that. They did put a bunch of erosion fabric. So yeah, most of the flow here, they direct as much as they can underground. Even during a really big rainstorm, you're still not going to see almost any flow here. You'll see it pooling up in different areas, but most of it is underground.
You want to prevent the runoff. You want it in the ground. So.
Yeah, so it's recharging. It's basically recharging the system up here. And since Tryon Creek is mostly fed by springs, it's a really good thing because the soils up here can handle it.
So what did they do with the down built up these buildings?
I believe they all get connected down into the groundwater recharge system.
Oh, sorry.
So what's going to happen to these logs once they're going to replace them?
A year and a half ago, it was funded by West Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District. It's 3 private property owners, these people, the ones across the way, and then this house right over here. And we're going to try to move up and down the stream too as we finish one project and hopefully get more funding for the next. And so one of the things that was not part of the project but they got inspired to do was to build, this is a swale right here, and they're actually taking the water. There's a lot of problems in this neighborhood with water coming off the street and just flooding basements and flooding garages. So they actually got all the water from the street. It goes into a certain pipe now, and then you can see it comes down through here, or you can see they dug recently, and then the downspouts too. It used to flow off into the hillside, and it was eroding the hillside, and landslide, all these dangerous things, not to mention it being bad for the creek. And now it comes into here, and this is like, I saw them digging this. This is really deep right here, so there's a lot of places for the water to slowly filter through here. And then if it ever does get really big, it can overflow over there. But it's a deep one.
How deep is really deep?
Like 4 feet down.
Okay.
So
Is it
that
pretty
it
much
seeps through slowly.
Right.
To
Yeah.
go down.
It comes down. I believe they put lining down, so it filters this way. And if it ever did overflow, it overflowed that end.
Wow.
Did he fill it gravel with his
Yeah,
rock?
I was going to say it's rock, yeah.
And then the other part of this project, though, so the main part of this project was, it's basically like a clematis demonstration site, because if you look, we had, not too many people have tried this was like over an acre of clematis, and if you look at page 9, page 8 describes the project. Page 9, right here, this is a view of what it did look like, and it was just clematis, like you would not believe. There's like a jungle in here. And so we've had volunteers and some contractors working over the last year and a half, taking all this stuff out, and so it just finished its 2nd summer of removal, and so we're going to be planting like 2,000 natives in here this winter. We planted a little bit down by the creek, but we can. Yeah, lots of evergreens. So this is an example of, we talked about the first problem, the stormwater. This is the trying to get more shade over the creek, because down here, even though there are trees, a lot of them are deciduous, and a lot of the stuff is just, there's not near as many conifers as you'd like to see down here. So this is what we're doing here, taking out the bad stuff and then putting in the good stuff and the evergreen conifers so that you can shade the creek, and then eventually, in 100 years, the stuff will fall into the creek, So,
What kind of evergreens?
we're gonna be putting hemlock and cedars here because it's already got. Douglas firs like to grow in the open sun, and this has got already deciduous canopy. So the older hemlock and cedars grow a lot better under that. So there's already some planting, but we're planting a lot more.
Would you take the holly out?
We're gonna, we've taken a lot of holly out,
Yeah.
and there's an enormous laurel hedge over on this side that we've taken out. So if you guys want to follow, see all the clematis strings that are hanging out. That's all the dead clematis. So this site was just completely covered in it.
So you had a big crew
We hand pulled a lot of it. Most of it. We did have to use some chemicals on the upper part of it because it was just. Sometimes we hand pulled the first round and then it would grow.
Yeah, it's hard to get it to cultivate the good stuff. It's always hard.
So if you look at the creek here, this is an example of kind of the effects of the stormwater through here. You can see that it's being cut down, and it's so the flat area. The flat areas through here were the old floodplain. So if you see the bottom flat area is like of a stream side. This is where the stream is normally supposed to flood, and that's a good thing because you want the water to spread out and not all rush down the same channel. But when you get big influxes of stormwater from the upper system, it comes through here and it just scours down, and it keeps cutting down on the banks, and it keeps getting further and further from the floodplain. So that's one of the things that doing things in the upper watershed helps with, is it helps moderate the flows, and then also putting large wood in the stream is going to help it get back to its normal state where it can actually get into the floodplain.
What are these big metal things? There's one in the water and one up there.
They're old fence posts. This site. Oh, that thing. That's the sewer system. Which that one is not working anymore. They used to build all the sewer systems right through the creek valleys. Because
It's still here.
It's still
yeah,
here.
they're still here for the most part. They still operate.
That's what wrecked a good part of it.
I know this one does actually. Yeah.
The sewer just cleared everything out. And put the sewer in.
We want to start doing that. Right now it's like private property, so there's some permit stuff we have to look into, but that's something that we want to do.
Just do what?
Rush check dams is basically setting up little like stick dams so that the silt and stuff actually fills in and slows the water down and makes more pools and ripples, so it's not just all flushed into the system.
Doing the job of being
Yeah. Right. But a lot of this stuff is wetlands through here, and the reason we did this project is because there's not very many of these stream-side wetlands left in Tryon. A lot of the creeks, believe it or not, are in worse shape than this in upper watershed. This one's still relatively intact, so that's why we're doing this project. So we're gonna be planting 2,000 plants, starting all this to about 200 feet up where those alder trees are, then all the way down there as well. So. There's a lot of projects like this. There's a lot of projects like this across the watershed that we've done. Solve does them, we do them. Portland Parks, there's a lot of different people doing them. So this is one of the ones in it. We're right now at, they call it the golf site. Solve is the one that's in charge of this project. This is private property, but it's all part of a big project. There's the Boone's Ferry crossing area is all going to be being done by the city of Portland, the revegetation process. So they've taken out all the blackberry last year, and they're